In 2013, I took a holiday in Iceland and I visited the Glacier Lagoon. It was the most beautiful and magical experience. I felt on top of the world, but I knew that the glaciers were melting. Many years passed, and one day, as I stepped out of home, the pile of rubbish that people had put out on the street for the corporate van to collect just hit me. And I thought to myself, how much rubbish do we generate and what can I do about it? At the same time, I learnt at CSM a new technique using waste eggshells. It was an amazing class. So I started collecting waste eggshells from restaurants near me. They were very, very kind, and I developed some really nice relationships. I got to know the people who would give me eggshells every day. I would bring home these eggshells, wash them, dry them, clean them. It was almost ritualistic. Now, in 2012, I had participated in an art exhibition in London where 209 artists had put in eggs all over London. Mine was in Covent Garden, and I felt very proud of it. That egg was made on the philosophy of the Upanishads. So I asked myself, how can I develop this idea further with my eggshells? I began to use the techniques I had learned at CSM to cast sculptures. And initially, I cast sculptures of ancient Indian gods and goddesses. In the week of COP26, I exhibited these sculptures in a Change Agents Bazaar, which was about sustainability, because I was reusing eggshells which did not have to go into landfill. Almost 93,000 metric tons of eggshell go into landfill in the UK every year. That's the weight of about 30,000 elephants. Next, what I did was that I put an eggshell collection center in the Central St. Martin's Library, and people donated very generously and signed my scroll. I then contacted one of the largest egg producers in the UK, and they gave me 150 kilos of eggshell, which I washed, I dried, I used blenders to grind it. It was, again, very ritualistic, a lot of hard work. Eggshells are not fragile, they're very, very strong. I broke 2 blenders doing this. And I asked myself, how much strength is there in the fragile? Can I make the symbolism of a life emerging and cracking an eggshell for my study on invisibility, boundaries, and all that affects human nature? At the same time, I started learning how to use algorithms, because algorithms are the invisible feature that drive a lot of things that we don't see, pretty much like life. So these are some of the visuals I made. It started with an eggshell picture, and as I used the algorithms, the eggshells would dissolve into a cloud of colors, which I found quite beautiful and quite magical and very symbolic of what I was trying to convey. But I needed still to develop this idea further. So I asked myself, can I use these to drive physical eggshell sculptures? I first made an NFT just because, I like to experiment a lot of things. It was very successful and I loved it. It was quite exciting. I continued my study on algorithms because it's really hard. It's coding. It's stuff that I did when I was in my finance job, but I needed to learn how to use it. In this particular case, a button and a viewer's presence is triggering these balls to explode and come back together. It's almost like an invisible glue that binds us all together, no matter how much we try to tear it apart. I then experimented using algorithms so that when the viewer is present, a depth camera senses it and the picture or the sculpture reacts to it. So here's what I did. This is a picture of snow dispersing when a viewer who's standing in front of the picture of the snow shakes his hand or his body. And it's quite fun. It's almost like a little toy where, you feel that you're driving the artwork rather than just sitting and passively watching it. As my experiments continued, I knew more and more that I wanted to use algorithms to drive and move my eggshell. In this picture,
So
you
I've got
see a little
step
picture that I
emoji
made,
here,
and this one is
and
made with the alcohol inks and Yupo paper.
using a
And
sine wave,
the way
I
that
can
it
make
turns is
a piece of
because an
sculpture or a
algorithm is
piece of
driving it.
painting
And this algorithm
move.
is
So,
activated when a
and
viewer
that
stands and
that
shakes their
movement can be
hands,
controlled
like the snow
with the
dispersion that I
presence of a
showed
viewer. So
earlier.
when a viewer
So I'm
steps in,
developing this idea
this
where I want a viewer
this
to
sculpture
move my
turns like
sculptures.
this
I want
and
the sculpture
faces
themselves to be
differently.
symbolic of forces breaking.
So
And
imagine
I want
like
to have
30 of them
the
moving in
picture
unison.
or the sculpture visible at some times and not visible at others, all driven by how a viewer moves and how he reacts. And I want to use this symbolism for how we affect our environment, our climate, our relationships, and they are not in an isolated world. We are working together with our environment. Thank you.